Yo, what up, what up, what up, what up? No, this is your
What's up,
boy,
Steve?
Reverend Stu and Reverend Boat, right? We still reverends, ain't we? We reverends in Jesus'
I don't
name.
think we can ever
what
undo
what
being a reverend.
It's dead week, though. So it's dead, you know how they call this dead week of.
No, I never
of-
knew that.
Yeah, they said this is like dead week of the year, where from Monday to, Sunday to Sunday, the last week of the year, like you ain't got no responsibility. Now, of course, that's essential worshipers, like whatever. The metaphor doesn't work, but
Oh, okay.
dead week is like people ain't doing nothing, nothing counts. How you spending your dead week?
I'm doing nothing.
Oh, word.
Yeah, I'm off work
I feel that.
for 3 weeks. Praise the Lord.
Oh, you got it. You a deceased week. Weeks. Deceased weeks.
Just chilling it.
Yeah, that's what's up. How okay. So how do you imagine like you did you do good in your goals this year as you reflecting on your
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you don't got to get too much in debt, but like, you know, as you think about like this year's end, how you kind of, I guess, reflecting on the year's end.
I did well.
Good.
Right. I remember that even if I wasn't able to fully complete something, allowing myself grace, giving myself grace. Right. So I think that's important. I mean, anything that we do, how we start, how we finish, right? There are times where things just may not work for you. And instead of just feeling like we have to, because that's what we've been conditioned or been taught to think we have to do something, give yourself grace and say it's not working and keep moving to the next thing. So
That's what's up. I should have did more of that this year. Like, just like, it's okay not to do that today, or not to do, or to leave things undone until next time. It's okay, you know, because I really struggle with that. Like, you know, because I want to, you know, PG has this thing where he said like a few months ago, and it was like in passing, but I really hung on to it, where he was like, you know, see things all the way through. And that's like it's like little thing that like really stuck with me this year. It's like, you know, see it all the way through. And that's true in many areas. But then sometimes like seeing it all the way through doesn't mean like you got to see it all the way through every day, every waking moment of your life.
I agree. I was reading an article by Nidra Glover Nawab. I think that's how you say her name. And she talked in regards to like how we set these goals, right? And I feel like oftentimes when we set a goal or an objective, we make it an absolute. So she was talking about like she is wanting to read like 26 books in a year. So she started reading a book, and the book, she was like, this is just not working for me. It's not a good book. So instead of forcing herself to finish the book, she just put it down. It was like, it's not working for me. Let me move on to my next book. I don't feel like she still didn't finish strong or well. That wasn't working, right? So I think oftentimes we hold ourselves to absolutes, and sometimes it's a disservice to us too, right? And so I think for myself, because I started a couple of things this year, and I realized, why did I choose to do this? This is not working. And I forced myself to try to finish it, and it just was not right, Stu. So I was like, hey, this isn't working, so let me continue to move on to the next thing. It doesn't mean I failed. Doesn't mean I didn't want to finish strong. What it meant was that wasn't working. And I think oftentimes we just feel like we just got to continue to press, to each his own. But what I'm learning for myself is to allow myself grace and continue to encourage myself. And that works for me.
That's real. December's always hard for me.
December. Why is that?
I mean, for the last few years, Decembers have been very hard, like months. Whether it was in 2021 where, you know, I was really coming out of this like seriously, immensely, deeply grieving season of one of my friends' deaths in September. And then a month after that, my book comes out. Then I'm like on the move and like, writing and showing up and doing things. And then around December was the last time I saw my granddad, and you know, Asa had that seizure early January, and then the next December, which was last year December, and I was dealing with like a lot of panic attacks, I had a nervous breakdown, just so much pressure. Like Decembers was filled of so much pressure. And like even this week on Christmas Day, I wake up at 3 a.m. Christmas Day and I got a stomach bug. And I'm like, what in the world? If it ain't one thing, it's another. And I had a chance to reflect on Christmas Day. I was up by myself. And I had a chance to reflect. And it's like, you know, at least we made it. You know, I mean, it's hard. Life is hard. Life is tough.
So question for
But we made it.
you. Why did you put the at least in front of we made it versus we made it?
I think it holds intention. Like, at least for me, holds intention that like, it's almost like an in spite of for me. I was reading a book that says courage is the self-affirmation in spite of. So like for me, at least is the very embodiment of that. Like it is to say like, okay, Decembers have been tough over the last few years, but at least we made it. And therefore, if we made it, then we can name it differently. And that's, for me, that's what I chose to do in this week. It's like, you know, there's 52 weeks in a year. And out of the 52 weeks in the year, most of us, we're working. We're like really like grinding hard. You know, sometimes we're in the hospital and we're sick. Sometimes, you know, we're on the road, we're traveling. Sometimes, you know, we feel like unproductive and things like that. Sometimes, you know, we're building with other people. And rarely in those 52 weeks do we have time to like really like quiet the noise of the world and just kind of reflect on our own life and just give ourselves an opportunity to name something differently.
So you said
Yeah.
rarely do we have the opportunity. That's a decision that we made not to stop. And let's be clear. Let's be honest.
I kind of, sort of, maybe.
This will be a he said, she said moment,
Yeah,
right?
go ahead,
so I
ahead.
feel like
Yeah.
we have to be, so just like our cars,
Yeah.
right? Depending on what type of car you have, back in the day, it was every 3,000 to 4,000 miles, you got to stop and go get an oil change, right?
That's real.
After so many miles, you have to get a tune-up. If not, what happens? Your car begins to do what a car does that has not been taken care of.
That's good.
It's the same thing with our spiritual lives. If we don't stop to intentionally take care of ourselves, then what begins to happen? Our lives begin to spiral. We begin to be overwhelmed. Different things can happen. So that's why I say that we made the decision not to stop and reflect.
That's
because
real.
your car is going to tell you, check engine, a light is going to come on and let you know when it's time to go get the maintenance. Our bodies tell us when we need this maintenance, right? Or even if it's not our bodies, because we can keep going because we miss the signs sometimes. We need to set some type of reminder to let us know, hey, you need to stop and do a check-in, right? Because we wait until the end of the year to reflect over 51 weeks.
That's real. Wow.
So I think we have to be, it's interesting that we will take care of everything else that we own, but we won't take care of our own selves, the bodies, the minds that God has given us to take care of, right? So, I mean, I am going to challenge you because I do think at some point in our lives, we need to mature to the point where we have to sit back and do some spiritual inventory, some spiritual tune-up, some spiritual oil changes, right? To reflect over what has worked in this quarter, what did not work, how do I need to move forward in the next quarter, right? Because if we don't, then we continue this vicious cycle of whatever we're doing, we're not checking in with ourselves, and then at the 52nd week, we reflect over 51 weeks. And dang, I could have done this different, I could have done better. So I think that's a decision that we make not to check in before the 52nd week. But that's just boat ride.
Oh, I get it though. I get it. I ain't gonna lie. I get it. I really do. I really do get it because, you know, a lot of us do push the pedal to the metal, you know, because sometimes we feel like in order for me to, if I do slow down, if I stop, if I go get an oil change, metaphorically speaking, then I lose. You know, it's almost like imagining your life as a never-ending race around the Daytona 500 versus imagining your life as a road trip to somewhere you've never experienced. So one of them is like, okay, you got to strategically time when you're going to stop. And if you do stop, you got to always, you in this mentality where you're like checking okay, where's this car going? Where's this car going? Is this car speeding up before me? Or how much time do I lose? How much space do I lose if I stop? Versus like, if you're on vacation and you're going to travel into a city, you know, you're not necessarily in a mentality where you're like, okay, I'm in a race against life itself. But on the other hand, it's like, you know, I'm in a race against life itself, and I'm on the way somewhere where, like, in the end, it's going to be enjoyment.
But who taught you that, though? So I think I'm just curious because that's interesting that you say, like, we're in a race for life itself. Help me understand that part.
I think some of us, because we do gotta be honest that like not all of us are like contextually, like the way people were raised, you know, people's life situations, you know, not all of us, you know, come with the same type of, you know, like life outlook, as if like, you know, not everybody, you know, you think about like people who are working class. You know, if you have somebody that's like middle class or upper class, you know, the way they approach life may be different based on the context of their life. So therefore, you know, one may not be able to, you know, or one may not, you know, consider, okay, well, let me like stop, you know. But if somebody has like, you know, not working class, and we think about like class realities, then this person is able to go on vacation. They got less worries and things like that. So I think it's a life context that's built out of kind of like a system. So I was reading this week a book, Stay Inspired, right, by Brandon Stussy. It's a book on, you know, how artists kind of continue to keep like their kind of brain, heart, art connection going. And one of the question was, okay, if you look at like your childhood home, what did you learn about creativity from your childhood home? And I started to write, it's like open prompts, it's a workbook. So it's like open prompts. So I began to write like, okay, well, you know, the way I was raised, you know, we didn't like have like artwork, or like my parents weren't artists. They were a nurse and worked at Walmart, and my dad worked at Walmart, but like there were books everywhere. There were, you know, my mom and my pops like put us in like art class in the summer times, or, you know, there's an award my mom just gave me from 2001. I was born in 92. Award in 2001 that is like a governor's award for reading 20 books in a year, or whatnot. So all these things, I'm writing down all these things where I'm like, okay, well, you know, even though it wasn't like overtly like a creative environment, or like, you know, it doesn't necessarily like lend me to being an artist or being a writer or being this or being that, you know, there were like creative like things around my environment that made me like pay attention to things or store things and say like, okay, well, this matters enough to be stored. I think another way to think about that question is like, okay, how have you learned from your childhood environments to live? Not just to like create, but like to live. So I think for me, I think we learn as human beings a lot of times like from society, but also like from the childhoods that we live. So if you live in a childhood, if you come from a childhood where like everything you do is judged and nothing you do is ever enough, then you get socialized as a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 on from there. You get socialized as a person to believe that you always have to be working for affirmation, or that there's no point at which whatever you do, even if it's great, will ever be enough. And so you get on this perpetual cycle as a youngin' that ain't easily broken. It ain't, you know, it ain't prayed out or even medicated out. It's like literally like you gotta uproot it, you know, that idea of like your own, like your literal being is insufficient. And therefore, like, you have to acquire more, you got to do more, you got to be more in order to do all these things and be affirming things like that. So I can understand a person like that who says, okay, I find it incredibly hard to stop in life at 40 or 50 or 60, because we're not just, the conscious choices we make, but we also the kind of subconscious realities we've been shaped by. And so I think we learn it from there. We also learn it from school. We learn it from sport. As a football player, bro, like, there is no point. Like there's the statement, what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm. Like, what have you done for me lately? So I think we learn it our literal existence. And I'm even thinking about being American and being Christian and things like that. Our very literal existence, I think, is based on, like, our performance. And I think all of us in some measure have been shaped by that, and none of us go unscathed. And those of us who, find the clarity, get enough clarity and wisdom in life to try and disrupt that, as best we can. I mean, God bless them and hope they help others. But I think collectively, we all learn to be on this kind of hamster wheel race against life. I'll go from there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I do. And I do agree. Mm-hmm. I think that there is a time that we have to want to get off of that hamster wheel too, because we keep running and running and running. We're going to eventually wear ourselves out. We are not the Energizer bunny rabbit, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I think let's bring this back into us being believers, mm-hmm. right? So we know what the world has taught us, mm-hmm. Society, school, or whatever. I will say that I've been reminded in Hebrews 4, where it talks about promise rest for God's people, right? And so oftentimes when we get so caught up in the audience of the world, that's just Boatwright's opinion. I do believe there's a time when God or the Spirit would direct us back to His Word to get us back on track. So earlier, a couple of years ago, as we discussed once on the podcast, I made the decision to choose me. Best decision I could have ever done, right? And in reading Hebrew 4, that was one of the things that helped me. I'll just read one or two of the verses. God's promise of entering His rest still stands, right? So we ought to tremble with fear that some of you might fail to experience it. For this good news that God has prepared this rest has been announced to us just as it was to them. So for me, just verse 1, God's promise for entering His rest still stands. And I'm talking about the rest on the land. May His will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
My.
Right? So when I'm looking at this, I realize that I don't have to wait to get to heaven, to see glory, or to be with the Lord, to receive His rest. The rest still stands for me while I'm here on earth. So what does that look like for Boatwright? Taking some time to reflect every month. Let me be honest, especially once a quarter. What worked? What did not work? I believe that when I allowed the Spirit, or just in my relationship with God, to quiet the noise of the world. Let me be honest, dude, right? Not trying to please other people, or realizing I really had an audience of one to please, and that was just God. I no longer had to wait until week 52 to reflect over what I did in that year. So rest is different for me, right? Rest means making sure at least once out of the month I spend some quality time, not just with myself, but with my children and my grandchild, right? With my parents, with my siblings. Sometimes it means just being quiet, not doing no television, no social media or anything. Just taking time to reflect over me, what I've done, my relation. Have I been stagnant in my relationship with God, right? Have I spent enough time in my study, in prayer and meditation, and realizing sometimes I haven't, because we're just busy. We're busy. We've been taught to just be busy, and oftentimes, I think one of our podcasts Sometimes we are busy, and when I say doing nothing, we're just doing some things that are not really and truly building the kingdom. It's just busy, just doing things. So I feel like for me, when I think about finishing strong, it's just making sure, first and foremost, that I've given myself grace.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause we don't give ourselves enough grace,
Oh,
and we
100.
should,
100.
because we feel that we have written these goals out, that we have all of these objectives that we want to meet, and God forbid if we don't, we feel like we have failed.
Yep.
Doesn't mean we're a failure.
Yep.
It just means maybe it didn't work for us. Maybe it was something we chose out of emotion to try to do. Maybe we heard some other people talking about they were going to do it, so we want to try to do it. No, I gave myself grace this year. If I did not read 12 books, oh well, I didn't read them. So what does that mean? I just didn't read them, right? So I do think like finishing strong is going to look different for every single person, right? I think for me this year, I'll just say making sure as I move forward into 2024 to continue to show myself grace. So I always choose a theme, and I'm not going to act like I came up with it. Like Pastor Goodman always has a theme for the church for the year. I started having themes for my own individual life. So I've been trying for the last quarter of the year, like, what is my theme for 2024? It's not going to change from Yes, Lord. That's what I had in 2023. I'm going to move over into 2024. I don't have to force myself to have something new when what I already have, I'm still working on, right? Because there's some areas of my life I realized I didn't completely surrender, period. So finishing strong for me is like as I reflect, there are some things that I still feel that I need to complete. So it'll go over into 2024. Doesn't mean I didn't finish strong. It meant I was a little bit wiser instead of moving on to the next thing. And I don't really fully feel that I gave my all because I was doing some other things. Right? And multitask, we think we can multitask a lot, but we know something fails when we do that, right?
And I absolutely love this principle that you're thinking about, both like looking back and looking ahead. And I think so many of us, we struggle, I think, with looking back and looking, partly because, you know, what we see ahead seems so daunting and distressing that, like, to be present with ourselves and with the actual lives that we're living, it seems very hard to do. So, like, when I think about, like, writing, being a writer, where the next day, where the words start over, you're at 0 words for the day. You know, you're at 0 new ideas for the day. But you already have thousands or hundreds of words that you've already written to a thing. And because you understand how hard it is to do what you do, you in psychology, the term is avoidance, where moving forward feels like scary, or it feels like it robs us of our power or our self-confidence or our self-trust. So therefore, we find it hard to look back and accept the past is what it is, and it's actually a good thing because I did it and I never gave up on it, and I'm going to go forward because I know that the unknown is full of expectation. It's ripe with possibility. And last year, it's not 2024 yet. Last year, I was working on a project, and it was going incredible. I mean, it's a dream project for anybody, you know, to work on. And I really put my best foot forward in that project. And week in and week out, I mapped it out. I did everything. I'm talking about, like, granted, you can always get better at what you do. But, like, when you're good at what you do, like in the corporate world and preaching or whatever, when you're good at what you do, you done develop a system
Right.
that, like, you know, it will get you closer. It puts you on a trajectory of getting what you need done, and doing it in a good way, like a playbook. You got your playbook. So I followed my playbook, and I was able to adjust and was able to, I was flexible and moved and maneuver. A month went by, 2 months went by, 3 months went by, 4 months went by. And I mean, I'm talking about like knocking out the goals, knocking them down, to where I get to the end of the project. And like, for me and the other side, like the project was going well. We had great, camaraderie. We vibe well, and all those things happened. Then in March of this year, boom, it gets canceled.
Right.
After all that hard work, it gets canceled. And I was talking to a friend. I actually called my agent. First person I called was my agent. Second person I called was on Jesus. Third person I called was the last two people I called were two of my really good friends in this writerly world. And we both talked each an hour, and they gave me a lot of wisdom. And the next day, I went back to the coffee shop, sat down, and was like, you know what? I'm not going to be bitter. I'm not going to badmouth. Because if I'm bitter, then I can't move forward and create. If I badmouth, then that's going to look bad on me. And it's not going to do well with my heart. And so I think when I was in that moment, like I've been really reflecting about this year. And when I was in that moment, what did it? Was it just sheer grit, sheer will? No. Because like the first person I called was other people. I was like absolutely spent emotionally and psychologically. It was not just sheer will, wasn't just sheer grit. It was the people who are around me, the things that I already accomplished in the past, and a small act of telling myself, okay, this happened, and I'm going to go back to the place where it all began, at the coffee shop. And I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to work. The unknown is full of expectation. Therefore, it may not be okay, but we're going to work it out, and we're going to figure it out. And I think so many people looking in 2024, and they're like, things fell through for me this year. I didn't get done what I needed to get done. And even when I did get it done, it didn't work out. Or I gave my best, and my best wasn't good enough. But you said something that's very important. Was it a failure? No. It was not a failure. You did it. You got it done. It was just things outside of your control that you had no way to anticipate. And guess what you did? You figured it out.
Right.
And I think so many of us find it hard to look back because we've learned that whatever happened in the past is everything. And what can happen in the future is nothing. When in actuality, they're both everything. The past is everything, and the future is everything. And the only way we're going to figure out how to finish strong is be okay, with however this year went, and be open to how this next year can go.
That's good. Yeah.
So the person, I'm interested in the person that's like high functioning, high motor. Like I ain't talking about the person that's like, yo, like I'm okay with taking off. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with like clocking out today. I'm talking about the person who's high functioning, high motor, high like, they're like, in the corporate world, they're like the most exciting and the most dangerous. Both. On a football team, they're the most exciting and the most dangerous because, they'll work harder than most people and they'll be more unhappy than most people because, they work hard, they got the goals, and yet they feel they lack a sense of accomplishment. That person is sitting in front of you. How do you help them reflect on the year they had? Just your wisdom. Your wisdom. Because I want to use like actual real life situations. We're going to go to another person and then another person.
Oh wow, Stu. So, ooh,
I know you in corporate America, so y'all deal with all types of people on an everyday basis, and you got like like you do got a wisdom. I feel like it's like that coming from that world, especially as a black woman. Like you got a wisdom that's like intuitive, and I think people would benefit from hearing that. Maybe
oh, ask me the question again. Let me see.
so it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. So you have a person. Okay, it's a year in review. They're high functioning. They're sitting in front of your desk, and you just it's not no chastising meeting. It just let's just talk about this year. What you felt went right. What you felt went wrong. What could have been better. But the person is like a high functioning person. They're like a high level, a high motor. So they need that spark in order to feel alive because that's just a part of their makeup. It's just who they're high energy, they're high functioning. They like to knock off goals. This person this year, you've seen them like do incredible things, and yet this person is also more unhappy than people who didn't accomplish as much as they did. So when they're sitting down in front of you and they want to reflect on, you're helping them. You're just giving them wisdom on how to like view their year.
I think
yeah.
I would just focus on, for the most part, with them what they've accomplished, because they're driven. This is a person that's really driven. Focus on a lot of things that they have really and truly accomplished, and the areas where they feel that they did not accomplish, right? Helping them to understand the importance of celebrating their wins. I think too often we just don't celebrate those wins. We focus on what we did not accomplish, and where in the areas where they did not achieve what they wanted to, helping them to understand two things that I've heard a lot this year was fail fast and fail forward, right? What does that look like? So you learn from those experiences. We can carry them over into 2024, and then just help them to work towards achieving those. One important thing that I learned from my director this year was a MERN, MIRN, the most important right now. Because I think we try to multitask, and that high functioning person wants to try to multitask a lot, and recognizing something will go lacking when you multitask, right? So focus on what's important right now and help them to move forward in that. So you may have a lot of goals that you're trying to achieve, but in this moment, this month, or this quarter, what's the most important right now? That was the way that I was able to finish strong my goals for 2024. Because every quarter we took the MERN, what's most important right now. So that was helpful.
That's good. Okay, yeah. Second person. This person, they may or may not be high functioning, right? They may or may not be high motor. Okay. They may or may not be high motivation. And the reason why they may or may not be is the demand on their life is too much to where they don't even know who they are. So this year, they've had to take on other people's tasks. They've had to confront their own struggles with feeling like unaccomplished. And they've had to show up when they feel like they're doing a job of 10 people and they only got the time of like half a person, because their sales are always split. And so they come to you, they're sitting down and they're saying, yeah, I'm about to rip my hair out. I'm tired. I want a vacation, but I don't know how to take a vacation because if I take a vacation, then somebody else going to be mad and this person going to be mad and this person might be mad. But I need some time off and I'm struggling and I'm flustered.
Okay.
Right? And they come to you and they're just, hey, I just need wisdom. Wisdom, tell me.
Yeah, this person is carrying too many monkeys, right? There's a book by, I think it's Ken Blanchard, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. And pretty much this is a person that feels like they can't take a vacation. They can't give or delegate this assignment to someone else because people are going to get mad or it may not get accomplished the way that they want it to. You got to get the monkeys off your back. to be honest. And how do you do that? You delegate for the most part. You encourage people on your team to help you out. Just tell them you need help. I think we have a problem with telling people we need help, right? So I would tell this person to show up as the person that you want to be. This is something real that I did for someone that I was coaching on the job. Who do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? And they said a chief financial operator. So you need to start showing up as that person, right? And so if you're a CFO, you're not taking on all the responsibilities. You're delegating accordingly. That's it. I think we just carry around too many monkeys. And then we see other people, they may be lounging or lollygagging at their desk, scrolling on social media because you've chosen to feel as if the office won't run or something won't be accomplished if you don't do it. You better delegate or ask for some help.
Facts.
Ask for help.
Facts. All right. Last person, and I'll take this one. Last person. That's actually very good wisdom, very helpful wisdom. There's a person who, this year has been this year, for good or for ill. They journal, they're in therapy, they're church going, they pray, they give, they do all the things, right? They do all the things. They show up, they support others, they're just stellar. And then at some point in the year, they hit a brick wall. And it's like, bruh, I can't function. I don't know what is happening, but I just ain't got it right now. And you can close with a word with them. I want to tell that person, like, start small. PG quoted a book in his sermon that changed my life. It had to be 2018, 2019. Might have been 2018. Where he quoted, it was at West, and he quoted a book by a guy named James Clear entitled Atomic Habits. I got that book. I purchased that book right after the sermon, and might have been 2019. I can't remember. I purchased that book right after the sermon, and I've read that book twice a year ever since. Once half every 6 months. I started over. Boom. Started over. And there's a line in there on small acts. Like we think that this massive change that we desire will be you just muscle it out. You go, this week everybody going, and I think we should. I'm just be real. If you get in the gym, do it. If you change your eating, do it. If you get in your journal, do it. If you get in your planner, do it. If you changing something, personally, I don't never want to make nobody feel bad about starting over or doing whatever they got to do to get themselves right. Cool. But we done did all these things. We done got a gym membership. We done bought a new bike. We done got some new, we got the year-end sale. We done bought a treadmill. We done bought some new gear. We done bought some new shoes. And we ready for the new year. And then Monday comes January 1st and we're like, okay. Yo, start small. Just do a small thing. Even if it's okay, today, I'm going to just show up to the gym. Or today, I'm going to just write, what I want to try and accomplish. Or today, I want to just, step outside, get some fresh air. Or today, I just want to do whatever we do. The only way you crawl yourself out of the hole that you feel yourself in is not by muscling your way out, but it's by slowly getting yourself out. It's slowly, and it's okay.
Oh, that's good.
And you can end it. You can end it there.
At least we forget about people, our community, right? I think we here in the States, we pride ourselves on being introverts. That's great. To be clear, because I'm introverted. But have you ever heard of Blue Zone? The Blue Zone people.
Mm.
These are people that live over 100.
Mm.
And as I have been kind of following this,
I feel like I've seen like maybe NPR. Did NPR do something on them?
I don't know if
PBS?
NPR did, but I know there's this documentary on them. And
On these or Netflix?
Netflix does have
Okay,
it. 'Cause
I think yeah.
my doctor's Indian, and she was sharing with me about the Blue Zone people and how they're living longer. And one of the top reasons, if they're sick, what it showed was if they were depressed when they were surrounded by community. And those people in their community began to feed them with affirmations and love. It gave them life. So I would say to that person that you just talked about to not negate community,
Yes.
right? Surround themselves around people that are going to be open and honest, transparent, but also to help them to feed life into them too, right? Those affirmations. I do believe, and that's love, right? That will help them to get out of that hole, because we cannot get out of a hole by ourselves,
Thanks.
right? We have been, and I know we're closing, you keep hearing people say that they are self-made millionaires and they're self-made. No, nobody is self-made. Somebody has helped us along the way. And I think for this particular person that you're talking about, never negate community, because people that are in our community, people that we surround ourselves, that love us, that are going to be open and honest with us, they're going to be the ones to help us to get out of that hole.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. Great wisdom, brother. This has been good.
It's been good.
Well, that is the last one for the year.
yes.
And the next time we will be back, it will be next year. It will be 2024.
2024.
It's going to be a great year. I want to affirm that it's going to be a beautiful year for all of us.
I agree.
It's going to be a loving year. It's going to be an amazing year. It's going to be an inspiring year. It's going to be a challenging year. Let's be real about that. It's human life. And yet, we're going to make it through.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do it together.
God is able to do
Yes.
exceedingly abundantly above
Give
all
us the Bible,
that
Reverend.
we can ask or
Give
think,
us the Bible,
according to the
Reverend.
power that
Take
works
us
on
to
the
the
inside of us.
Hey.
Amen.
Right.
Peace out, y'all.
Love y'all. Y'all be
Happy
good.